Oh, there we go. Hello, welcome. I call this March 23rd, 2023 hybrid meeting of the Albuquerque Bernalillo County Government Commission plus APS to order. Councilor Grau, Commissioner Quesada are excused, along with APS member Danielle Gonzalez and Mayor's Chief of Staff, Katrina Sandoval, is attending as the mayor's designee. Councilor Feeblecorn, Benton, and Pena are appearing via Zoom, and Commissioners, as well as myself, and Commissioners Baca and Chair Baca and Commissioner Olivas are in the chambers. So we have a true hybrid. Thanks to everybody for joining this evening. Please join me in a silent invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Commissioner Olivas. Thank you, Commissioner Olivas and team, for leading us. I move to approve the February 23rd, 2023 ABCGC plus APS meeting minutes. Can I please have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call vote.
Madam Chair Barboa?
Yes. Oh, Madam Julianne?
Councilor Feeblecorn?
Yes.
Commissioner Barboa? I'm sorry, Commissioner Baca?
Here. Yes.
Commissioner Olivas?
Yes.
Chief of Staff Sandoval? Yes. Councilor Pena?
Yes.
So called. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. So for public comment, Julianne, do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
Madam Chair, we have one signed up this evening.
Okay, thank you. For public comment, you'll have 2 minutes to share your comments. You'll then be notified when your time is up. Thank you for joining in.
Okay, we have one in-person commenter, Mr. Robert Beatty.
Welcome, Mr. Beatty.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, APS board members, and representation from the mayor's office. I'm Robert Beatty. I'm representing SWEP, the Southwest Educational Partners for Training. I'm the director of Robert F. Kennedy Charter School, and I'm vice chair of the BHI Prevention and Intervention Committee. I'm here to talk about gun violence and how we prevent, intervene, educate, and train our youth to change their world. SWEP partners with the Mexicans to prevent gun violence, to take unwanted guns from the street and to turn them into tools like this one and art like these flower vases. By taking pieces like this and teaching students how to use a lathe to turn them into this. And by taking gun barrels, teaching them how to use a forge and training them to make shovels and garden tools. But our Guns to Gardens projects does training, but it also teaches young people how to speak with their peers about the impact of gun violence, as well as giving the opportunity to civically engage to change the laws in Santa Fe, as they did with House Bill 9, the Benny Hargrove bill, this session. I urge you, city councilors and county commissioners, to be willing to meet with our team as we reach out to help our Guns to Gardens project continue to change lives. I brought some students with me today that are participating in this program. They show up every Saturday, right? They show up every Tuesday and Thursday. I appreciate your time. Oh,
Thank you, Mr. Robert Beatty.
so this tool is really to be presented to Board Member Yolanda Montoya Cordova, all the elected officials who came to the dedication of the mural. Would it be okay, Madam Chair?
Yes,
Built by the students.
thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Olivas.
Mr. Beatty, I just wanted to thank you for being here and for leading on this program. I think this is a really exciting thing, and it's really exciting to see you guys in here tonight. And just want to offer my support, and I'll definitely follow up with you and find out how we can
It's great.
help more.
Summer project is to teach these young people how to turn gun parts into guitars. And so it's a whole new piece for them. They're working with a famous artist from Mexico City called Pedro Reyes. He's going to do a Zoom, and then he's going to come up and he's going to teach them how to do that. Appreciate your time.
I love it. Thank you.
Madam Chair, that concludes public comment.
Thank you, Julianne. Thank you, Mr. Robert Beatty, and all the folks who came out. Excited to hear about your project. New business. We'll now proceed with new business. We first will hear from Councillor Benton about Built for Zero presentation.
Madam Chair, I don't see Councillor Benton on, but he may have folks here to present on his behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there someone here to present upon Built for Zero? Yes, Elizabeth.
No.
Thank you, Director Oldgeen.
Were you going to be putting the slides up, or would you like me to share my screen?
Go ahead and share your screen. Thank you.
Okay. And I'm sorry, it's this is not my presentation, so it's in a kind of a PDF format. So I'm hoping it's not too difficult for people to see here. But we can
Good
also.
to me on screen. So.
It looks okay?
Yes, I don't know how it looks in person, but.
Okay. So really quickly, as a form of background, we've been working really diligently to think of the most effective solutions for homelessness in the city and county, and our state in general. And this is a national initiative that was brought to our attention some time ago. Albuquerque was actually a registered member of this program, but with COVID, like many things, that sort of went to the wayside. And we are really looking to invigorate this effort. So I'm here to talk about this and the decisions made by the Homeless Coordinating Council and sort of next steps forward in our vision for the near future. So there is a group founded by a woman named Roseanne Haggerty. She began her work in New York City in the 90s. Despite successfully housing people, they noticed that there's still homeless people, right? A lot of people you hear say, well, just give them a house. But we know the issue is so much more complex to that, and there's not a one cookie cutter golden solution for homelessness. So throughout her work, she was involved in several different campaigns. She created her organization, Community Solutions, which led to this Built for Zero concept. And they have received a $100 million MacArthur grant to help communities across the United States reach something that they call functional zero. And I know there's some slides about it as we go, but for the sake of the conversation, functional zero means that the number of people entering homelessness are equal or lesser to the number exiting homelessness. Because I think if we say, oh, we just want no homelessness, well, something could happen to somebody on any given night, right? So we know homelessness will happen, but we want it to be very short-lived and not happening very often. We don't want people to be chronically homeless. So 14 communities so far have reached this functional zero milestone by participating in their program for one of their homeless populations. It helps really to lay out, it helps you to see what we're funding, what we're doing, what we're paying attention and putting our energy and resources into, and using data at a really more nimble pace so that we can tell if what we think we're doing is actually as helpful as we've imagined. Here's an overview of the communities that have signed up so far. They, as you can see throughout those over 100 communities, they've housed over 147,000 people. And again, 14 communities have reached that functional zero status for a certain population. When I say a certain population, I mean some communities will pick veterans. Here in Albuquerque, we've chosen to focus on the chronically homeless. And to start as even a subset of that, we're going to start with our unsheltered in encampments, because those are some of the very most vulnerable and most complex people to serve. And many other communities have really made a huge improvement in their ability to harness that real-time data and make more efficient decisions based on that data. And many have really achieved a very measurable reduction, if not all the way to zero, but a very large impact on their chosen population. So the good news is that we in Albuquerque are not starting from scratch. We have many of the elements that are laid out within this framework. One really important one is case conferencing. And we, during the closure of Coronado Park, hired a facilitator from outside the community. She lives and works in Las Cruces and has a very extensive case management and social work background. So she's able to be kind of a nonpartisan outside advisor for our agencies to be able to give them technical advice and help really see how everyone can work together, share resources, and more efficiently house people working from one list. So we have that going, and we will review, we have a framework for the Built for Zero case conferencing, and we will just be comparing if we need to add any kind of crucial elements to our existing model. They have several milestones that they lay out here. And again, we have a lot of this, but we also have some action steps to keep growing towards the kind of the launch of this model. But the good news is we have a lot of leadership engagements. As I mentioned, the Homeless Coordinating Council, which if anyone is not familiar, is made up of the city, county, UNM, and now the VA. And we're also looking to add additional essential partners. We have decided as a council to adopt this model. In addition, I hold a provider summit for the senior leadership of our service provider organizations, and they also expressed their support and buy-in. So we're on the right track here. But these all really just drive, I mean, they're pointing to the need that we need data, we need to be collaborative and all have a shared aim. So currently, or even before we did the case conferencing, agencies might say we collaborate, right? Or even city and county, we collaborate on things, right? But we don't, people are still sort of blinders on in their mission because everyone's so busy with their own objectives and what needs to be accomplished in their organization. What Built for Zero does is kind of blow the roof off of that and have everyone, like I like to describe it, let's imagine we're all just one organization and what does your department do to have that shared aim? Another way you could think about it is if instead of releasing funding opportunities, like we say, who wants to do permanent supportive housing vouchers for us? we could say that the aim here is to house 200 people. So then you, as an organization, might put in a proposal for your piece. How many are you gonna house, or what service are you gonna provide to keep them housed? So you become part of, you're like one piece of the pie of that solution that we all have as a community, instead of just, oh, I have to house 50 people, check, check, check. That's what we're gonna do by ourselves. So it's kind of like opened my eyes to another way of even structuring how we could possibly fund or propose grants and things like that, to just increase the partnership and collaboration. They also really call out building that equitable system. It's really important that we have people with lived experiences on committees and giving input into the systemic barriers that we might not even be aware of. We are going to be embarking on a smaller group from the Homeless Coordinating Council, and really from every entity, really examining within ourselves, what are our systemic weaknesses? What do we do well? Where do we need to grow? And kind of flesh all that out so that we make sure we're prepared to address these barriers as we move forward with this system. Again, there's a big issue on access. We are independently of Built for Zero. The city is funding a independent evaluation of the coordinated entry system. We know there's many issues from our providers with that system and how people can access it and get prioritized for housing. So that's also undergoing an evaluation, which is exciting. So this should all kind of culminate together nicely to flesh out some really good recommendations for improvement. They did this calculation for Albuquerque because we really do have a relatively small homeless population compared to other larger cities. So our functional zero would be like 3 people entering or exiting at any time. So just to give you an idea of where our aim is at. So that's pretty incredible to me. So what you can do is sort of move on, like let's say that we get everybody in encampments to we reach functional zero for that population. Then we can move on to other subpopulations, or do we want to focus, like we have our family shelter? Do we want to focus on people distinctly that have been in shelters for a really long time? So we can then decide as a community, which segment are we going to try to focus on next, applying the principles we just learned with our hopefully previous successes here. So again, this comes back to my comments on people kind of working within their own organizations and silos, and everyone having their own priorities. Instead, we have these shared goals and aims, and then there is a command center that is created. And what's really exciting about Albuquerque is that we have the benefit of Project ECHO. So Dr. Sanjeev Arora has agreed to really augment this Built for Zero model with the ECHO platform so that we can hold trainings and do case conferencings that way. And perhaps his offices would be the location for this command center. The grant will fund 1 employee position full-time to help with data. And then each of the entities, city, county, UNM, and VA, will also be donating an equal amount of funding to staff the command center and lead. And their full-time focus is on data. And there's another slide there that kind of explains why that's really important. So many of you have heard the point in time or PIT count that the coalition does for us, and that is required for a lot of federal funding. But that is a count that relies on volunteers going out for 1 night and counting who's homeless. I don't know if that sounds like an issue to anybody, but It is for most everybody. That's obviously extremely inaccurate. We always have an undercount, and that's a problem when that's tied to our funding mechanisms, right? Also, if it's a problem that changes all the time, why are we relying on numbers from once a year to guide how we are allocating resources? It's guiding our strategy. So instead, we have this command center with real-time data so that we can see month by month if our investments and resources are making a positive or negative change, and we can quickly pivot if needed. The other advantage of this data is, again, that you might have heard me say by name list. You need to know every person by name and what their unique situation is. Because once again, what you do for one person to get them out of homelessness is certainly not going to work for the next person. So they use this model of improvement. Many people are familiar with the PDSA cycle here, but these are good questions to remind us all, like, what are we actually trying to accomplish? And again, this needs to be a shared answer here, but because we all might not agree, but even, you know, within organizations, people might not agree what we're trying to solve. How will we know what we're doing is actually going to be considered an improvement? And again, that ties back to that data, that real-time feedback for us. And what change can we make that will result in an improvement? So those are all things that will be decided as we start building up this command center and getting our core, they call it an improvement team. So just to give an idea about kind of where we're going, I mentioned we'll have that smaller group to really flesh out where we have weaknesses in each of our systems and see what we can do to ameliorate those. September 23rd is really a huge kickoff where probably the members that we select as our improvement team will go to a location for a 2 to 3 day conference. You will get to connect with other communities of similar size to us, learn from what they have been able to do, and get guidance to really kick this off. But we all acknowledge that we don't want to wait till September 23rd, which is why we're introducing this, talking about it, getting feedback, trying to really lay the groundwork so that we make sure we're teed up and ready to go and don't lose any time. And then that improvement team will be spending each month corresponding to the Built for Zero team, getting technical advice and doing other projects that they kind of guide us through. And that is what I have there. One advantage is that they have begun to implement this in Santa Fe as well. And Monet Silva is the new executive director of the New Mexico Coalition to End Homelessness, and she works both here in Albuquerque and Santa Fe. So she'll be able to also kind of guide Albuquerque from what's happening in Santa Fe. And because we have sometimes a transient population around different communities in New Mexico, we'll be able to know we're using that same system and maybe even increase our collaboration with Santa Fe as well.
Thank you so much, Director Holguin. Thank you for this great presentation. I know I have a few questions, but I've also been in the room with you on this conversation for a while, so I want to make sure I open it up to anyone. Any other questions, thoughts about the...
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Olivas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. and Director Holguin, thank you for this presentation. Just a question here. I guess this tool is really proposing a framework for building a more collaborative effort is kind of what I'm hearing here. So this isn't really specifying the individual tools to be used. For example, I'm really interested in the data integration and data analysis piece here. I know that that's talked about, but it doesn't really talk about who manages that or what system or anything like that, although it mentions, which I think is good, the idea of having leads on different issues. So, different partners, let's say the county leads on data or whatever, however you structure it, or mental health, behavioral health. That's the other question sort of tied in with that is, this is really focused on the unhoused, and I'm wondering how we integrate, what is a really key component of that population, which is, the substance abuse issues and mental health issues, often dual diagnosis or more. So just curious kind of how this relates to those two things.
Sure. So as far as the data management, that is again that command center and that staff that will be really focused on that all the time. And they will get data. I don't know if they have a platform yet that they recommend, but we will definitely be pulling from our homeless management information system, the HMIS, and then that coordinated entry system. That's really the basis where everyone needs to be funneled through. So I'm sure they have recommendations for us, but since we have not yet signed the MOU, we're not in the process down into the details with them. But they definitely have ways to manage that and systems, and then many different graphics that will be useful for people to make decisions on. Now, I don't separate, substance use, mental health. We know that's a huge component, not for everybody, but a huge percentage of our chronically homeless do have these issues. So when we say that we're housing someone, you can talk about rapid rehousing or permanent supportive housing. Most people that are in encampments will probably need permanent supportive housing. That means that they are then connected to all of those wraparound services that they need to stay housed. Once again, it's not just, give them a house, right? They'll be right back out the next day. You need to have the pathways created for them to see clinicians that they need to see, access other services, gain other life skills. And this is why there's also Built for Zero has done a pilot with a few cities, and it's specifically focused on healthcare organizations. So I think we can take some of those elements. And I'm a nurse practitioner by background, and have worked in the healthcare system all of my career. So I'm certainly aware of definite barriers that exist. And I think that group coming together that includes UNM, we can really flesh that out and see where those barriers are for people and how we fix that from the inside out as well. So that's all going to be under consideration with this model. It's not just checking, checkbox, we did it, we got them this, we got them over here. It's really about that whole picture and the whole system, which I don't think many of us have focused on up until this time, because again, we're all just trying our best to do what we need to do in our current roles.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Olivas and Director Holguin. Any other?
Yes, Commissioner Barbeau, this is Yolanda Montoya Cordova with APS.
Hello.
How are you? It's good to be here tonight. The conversation is really interesting because I know with APS, homelessness becomes a really big piece for us with the district and has become a huge issue post-pandemic, where we have several families that are still unhoused or living in temporary shelters and so on and so forth. And so it really does impact just one, the quality of education for those students and them being able to be stable through the whole school year. But it also, I think there's a huge opportunity for us to be part of this command center piece too, because I think the district is utilizing resources that probably could be best utilized to support like the academic supports, but we're using them in different ways so that we could also support families to stay stable in their living situations. So I would just advocate to make sure to include us as part of that conversation, because getting to like a 0 for us on that would be incredible. I think it could be a huge difference for just the student outcomes that we'd be looking at to improve with these students, especially those that have chronic homelessness for sure, or have unstable home environments at this point, because I know we still have several families that continue to reside in hotel situations.
Thank you. Definitely.
I think my question, just because I really think these are learning opportunities in these meetings, because we get together with everybody here. And I in my work trying to understand how we're approaching these as our different governments and in collaboration with the hospital and VA and everyone, right, is that I think just for some clarity, right, like when we if you could, I guess, define chronic homelessness, I want us all to like understand who we are targeting, because I also just to Ms. Cordova Montoya's points, right, like that, yeah, just if we could talk about chronic homelessness and maybe define what that is.
I'm not going to remember the exact definition, but it's, it's beyond a certain number of months or X number of times in the past year that you were homeless.
And I'm not trying to, I feel like I'm acting like a lawyer. So what I would also, like, so once, I mean, in this way, I believe I've learned, right, that once we are successful at getting somebody into even a wellness hotel, then they're not in this like homeless frame, which so much of what we're able or not able to do, or what we've created for ourselves as governments, I guess, is to say that when somebody has a couch to sleep on, they're staying, I know, in grandma's shed in the backyard, or in a wellness hotel. Like, thankfully, I feel like a lot of families have been, have some shelter, but that sort of takes them off of the list of homelessness and definitely out of the chronically homelessness.
There's two definitions. So yeah, you're right. One says you're not homelessness if you're somewhere, right? But another definition does include that. So yeah, you're right. It's definitely an issue.
And I think, like, right, so if I don't know if you can share that slide again, and I just want it, so when we say that this project, which all approaches are necessary, and Built for Zero has done this in other places in collaboration with partners like we're trying to partner now, and they've been able to get to that close to zero in target, like has chronic homelessness been one of their targets in other areas that they've addressed? Do you know if for Built for Zero, if targeting chronic homelessness has been one of the targets they've been successful with in previous
I think some communities, yes. A lot of communities do choose veterans. I think we chose to not focus on veterans because we have the VA here and they have a lot of wonderful resources, and we don't have such a huge veteran population as like different, larger cities in California, for instance. So, and I personally advocated for the chronically homeless because I kind of like to go big or go home and have a challenge. So, and again, I keep thinking in my mind, if we can solve for the most complex, high need individuals, it'll kind of be downhill from there, and we'll have a lot of lessons learned and be able to more easily solve for other populations.
And I get to serve on the Homeless Coordinating Council with some of the same folks here, but also Dr. Olguin, it's a presence there as well always. And in the most, this project and going forward did come out of the Homeless Coordinating Council. And I know that what's Project Echo's like part in this project?
So they're kind of like augmenting this model because we have that really wonderful resource here in our community. And that's going to be sort of what UNM's contribution to be able to have that echo platform where we can really get a lot of people together and bring a lot of education and training, but also have the platform for that shared data exchange, being able to set up those policies and systems so that everyone's comfortable, that it's HIPAA compliant, and being able to network in a way that we haven't quite before.
Thank you, Dr. King. And I think my last point is maybe just a comment to say, for all our awareness as we grow together, right? Chronic homeless, I think you even said in your presentation, right, that that's really folks it sounds like you're maybe even already measuring that as folks that are in encampments that we visibly see. So that is a huge win in itself, right? And like you said, if we start with the most impacted, then hopefully everybody else benefits. I just want to name, and I plan to stay close to this project, is that I do think with all those folks involved between the University of New Mexico Hospital, the veterans, the city, and Bernalillo County, that I would hope, and please carry along the message, right, that each program is looking in towards itself and what they could do to make those systems run better within our great collaborations and opportunities. I know I often hear from community that people are turned away from the CARES campus. People are turned away from the university hospital for having co-occurring mental health disorders, that law enforcement is also, so there's as much as we can in through this opportunity of bringing folks together, also really each of us look internally at to how we can strengthen each of our parts of the system to make it work better together.
Thank you all.
Thank you. No other questions for Dr. Olguin or Dr. Olguin? Thank you. We will move to old business. We have behavioral health initiative updates and proposals. We are deferring item 6A at this time, and we'll proceed to 6A2.
Good evening. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Chair. Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and Commission. My name is Amber Salazar, and I'm the Operations Manager for the Behavioral Health Initiative, standing in for Pam Acosta, Senior Manager, who was unable to attend this evening. I'm accompanied by Michael Barndollar, Vice Chair of the BHI Steering Committee, bringing before you a motion to recommend a funding increase in the amount of $1 million in non-recurring capital and startup dollars from the Behavioral Health Initiative. On September 27, 2022, the Bernalillo County Commission approved Financial Resolution 2022-104, budgeting a fund balance appropriation in the amount of $1 million from the Behavioral Health Gross Receipts Tax for capital and startup for small providers in Bernalillo County. Behavioral Health Initiative wishes to increase the approved appropriation by an additional $1 million for a total of $2 million. The intended intervention remains to fund smaller behavioral health agencies in Bernalillo County to further develop the behavioral health continuum with capital and/or startup services through one-time dollars which are not reoccurring. The purpose is to build capacity and sustainability for more behavioral health agencies, thereby diversifying services available to the community. This funding provides an opportunity for small behavioral health agencies in Bernalillo County with an annual operating budget of $500,000 or less to apply for funding to expand or develop behavioral health services which otherwise would not be funded. As new providers emerge and as existing providers demonstrate growth, the Behavioral Health Initiative and BHI Steering Committee recognize and agreed there is a greater need to increase the original funding amount to expand the support to small providers. On January 18, 2023, the Steering Committee unanimously approved the proposal to move forward to the ABCGC plus APS and Bernalillo County Commission for consideration. If it pleases the commission, I will defer to Vice Chair Barndollar for further comments. Otherwise, we stand for any questions.
Just a brief comment. We've been talking about upping the amount from 1 million to 2 million for quite some time. There are a lot of great organizations out there that don't fit within the multi-award contract process, procurement process that the county has. And we want to make sure that some phenomenal programs have the opportunity for some funding. This is one-time funding, it's not recurring funding. And it'll give an opportunity for an organization to scale up, to start a new program, to meet a need that hasn't been met at this point. So it's a great opportunity for a lot of small providers out there. When I say small, $500,000 or less. So for some, that's not exactly small, but we're looking forward to the RFP when it comes out, assuming that this moves up through the ABCGC plus APS and the County Commission. So as with Ms. Salazar, I will stand for questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Manager Salazar. Mr. Barndollar, anybody have any questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Olivas.
I have one question here. I really like this program. I think this is great. I think in the back of my head, I'm wondering if we still have to ask the question of, is this enough? When we talk about building up our behavioral health workforce and our providers, but in steps, I think we get there. So this applies to providers with an annual budget of under $500,000 a year. What's the maximum award amount, or is there one? What kind of maximum or minimum grant are we looking at here?
We actually hadn't had that conversation. I don't think there is a determined at this point maximum or minimum.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Olivas. Any other questions? Of course, I have things to say, but I just wanted to say that, I had asked for this. I'm very thankful for this to come in front. I heard a lot from providers, again, just the learning moment that many times the way our process is working previously was that folks that could really only large entities that could apply for and qualify for our grants. And oftentimes there wasn't enough consideration or even opportunity for smaller budget organizations. So our community providers really are carrying a lot of the services in our community. And so making this specifically available, I have told everybody, and I hope to soon see Michael Barndollar, just kidding, a mid-level tier to it, right? Like above 500 to maybe, I don't know what the cap might be, to 2 million or something like that, to give sort of mid-level tier and really diversify our behavioral health services budget. But those are just my comments. Thank you so much. I think this is, I would love, because it's been, I think, over a year since the first $1 million was voted on. And I'd love to get this out. Do we have an opportunity to know when this is going to be available? The RFP will go out.
Commissioner Barboa, I've actually served as lead on this RFP, and the draft has been ready to go since this was first presented to the steering committee in January. But the request for an additional $1 million is what's pending now. As soon as we get that approval, we're ready to go with solicitation for the RFP.
Okay, and the final approval will be coming in front of commission next commission meeting, is that true?
Yes, yes.
Awesome, so
We're
hopefully
ready
we'll
to go.
see the RFP. I'd love if you could share it with it, or ask someone to share it with this group so we can spread the word.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you. So can I so move that we approve item, I'm just gonna say item 6A on item 2B, and get a second? Thank you. And Julianne, please call the roll.
Chair Barboa,
Yes.
Vice Chair Fiebelkorn,
Yes.
Councilor Pena,
Yes.
Commissioner Baca,
Yes.
Commissioner Olivas,
Yes.
Chief of Staff Salazar. Thank you. So called.
Awesome, thank you. And now I believe we have Operations Manager Amber Salazar and perhaps Michael Barndollar to also talk about the Bernalillo County Winter Wellness Hotel extension.
Yes, this proposal is to recommend the extension of the Bernalillo County Winter Wellness Hotel, which should transition into Spring Wellness Hotel, in the amount of $740,000, 260 from the Behavioral Health Initiative. On November 15, 2020, the Bernalillo County Commission unanimously approved the proposal of a Bernalillo County Winter Wellness Hotel for a 4-month period to house families during the coldest months of the year. The proposed funding request is to allow the county to extend the operating period of the Bernalillo County Winter Wellness Hotel for an additional 6 months in order to secure stable housing for the remaining 24 on-site families. This proposal was approved by the Behavioral Health Initiative Steering Committee on March 15, 2023, to move forward to the ABCGC plus APS and Bernalillo County Commission for consideration. There was one individual who voted against the recommendation and indicated they had concerns about offering crisis services on site. The original intent of the hotel was short-term and meant to shelter families during the coldest winter months, where case managers would work with families to connect them to services. If it pleases the commission, I will defer to Vice Chair Bernalillo for further comments. Otherwise, we stand for questions.
This is exciting for us, and I'm going to talk a little bit about where we're going to go ultimately, hopefully, with some of this. The reason for the extension, as was noted, is that there were 50 families that started in the program, and we've housed 26 of them in permanent housing. So that's pretty phenomenal success rate, 50%, more than 50% over the last 4 months. We don't want the last 24 to go away unhoused. So we really want this program to continue for another 6 months, which will give us time to do that. The 700,000 is on a, it was a little over $1 million the last time, $1,042,000. This 700,000 will get us over the finish line and get us the services that we need. And we do work closely with APS with this program and make sure that the kids that are housed at the hotel attend APS classes and have other services available to them if they're too young for being in school. There are programs that occur at the hotel for those families and those kids. So it's a great program. What I want to tell you, and I know a senior manager at Costa for the BHI mentioned this, I think at the county commission meeting, that there are plans in the work to create some transitional housing for families just like this, so that we can perhaps move away from the hotel model and into a more sustainable long-term program for these kinds of families. So as Ms. Salazar said, the steering committee with one no vote moved forward with this, and it also came through my housing steering committee, subcommittee, and we approved it unanimously at the housing level. Stand for questions.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Olivas.
Thank you again for bringing this item before us here. And your last point there was kind of where my line of questioning was going to start. And that I think this is obviously a very honorable, important purpose here, but the cost of this in the scheme of sort of the numbers overall, and then, if you compare that to sort of the overall homeless population and such, it's quite an expensive endeavor and something that is temporary by nature. And so I guess I'm really glad that we're looking at something more permanent, that a permanent transitional housing, right, versus using hotels and that sort of thing, because, we're looking at spending $100,000 for 6 months of security. That's a lot of money. I'm also concerned that there's $25,000 in here for damage, which is something I have some more questions on, perhaps at a later time, but that seems like a lot of money in damage, security. I understand why we need that to not only protect the residents in this hotel, but also, protect them from the community, making sure that everybody's safe. I get it. And then that $340,000 in hotel nights is money we could be spending on maintenance of a permanent facility. And I think that would go a long way towards that, while we would still probably have some of these other costs like security and meals and those sorts of things that are just embedded in running that sort of facility. I'm glad to hear that we're moving in that direction. And my only other comment on it would be that I hope next year, because I believe last year we did the same thing where it was billed as a winter wellness motel, and then, you know, we didn't want to lose these folks by saying, all right, this place is closed, you're out, which I get. But I think if we do this again, I think it really needs to be billed as a yearly wellness motel or 9-month hotel, because I think it's a little bit, you know, budgetary. I don't want to. I'll just say it's not totally fair in the sense of a budget to come and say this is a winter hotel and then come back again and say, but actually we need to do it again to get us through. So I hope we can look at that more holistically next time, but I understand that these things happen and we don't want to let people go and lose the progress that we've made. So I will support this, but I think going forward, I'm glad to hear there's plans in the works for a more permanent solution. And hopefully next year, if we have a similar program, we can look at the whole year versus just a piece. So, thank you.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Olivas, if I may just comment, the amount for the hotel is the 300 and some odd thousand. That's what it is. We can't, I mean, it's actually gone up $3 a night per room since the approval of the contract in November of last year. The 25,000 is built into the contract. There's nothing we can do with that. And you're right about the security. We have concern about that. So Senior Manager Acosta of the BHI is looking into that to see if there's a way of reducing it. But this is where we are as of today. Thank you.
I just have one additional comment, Commissioner. The BHI providers under the community supports portfolio have been providing the case management services. So we have Central Savila, Albuquerque Center for Hope and Recovery, as well as Crossroads for Women, who are staffing the hotel for case management services, and they did that as well last winter. So just wanted to point that out.
Thank you for pointing that out, Ms. Amber Salazar. Any other questions? Thank you. I agree with Commissioner Oliva's sentiments. It's in moving quicker towards more housing, more stable, more even permanent or longer transitional housing for folks that it's hopefully just budgeted for. I also think that maybe it's not something that usually comes before elected officials or these type of but I do think I've been privileged to get like a lot of the city has, I believe, 4 wellness hotels up that are year round. And we now, the county, have done this one twice. And I just want to make sure we're capturing like lessons learned, both from what the city has done. I think there were from the last report I saw that the city sent out, there was some they did a full evaluation and sort of came out with some best practices that included having what the services look like and what they maybe needed to have on each floor as far as care and whether it was 24 hours. And I also, just to that point, think of food. I heard a lot about what I visited a couple of them. I've been invited to a couple of the ones in my district, and a lot of the conversation has been that there's food available, but it's not often nutritional or not whatever. Maybe, we're not trying to, I'm not saying we need a 5-course meal or anything, but we can think about our spending and our budget around food and nutrition as well. So I don't know if we will be able to, what is the evaluation process for this, for our wellness hotel at the county, and can we get a report? Amber, maybe.
The Behavioral Health Initiative, we have 3 contracted evaluators that are not evaluating one-time funding. They evaluate recurring funding programs. So this project falls under one-time funding.
Okay. I will follow up with Chief Pettis about that. Okay.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I mean, obviously if the commission would certainly like a report on the success, and I will say success because it will be successful, a report on the success and the metrics, we will certainly provide that.
Thank you.
Put a little pressure on the BHI staff.
We would like that.
Thank you so much. All right, I move to approve item 6A3. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Chair Baca. Julianne, please call the roll.
Commissioner Baca,
Yes.
Commissioner Olivas,
Yes.
Chair Barboa,
Yes.
Vice Chair Feeblecorn,
Yes.
Councilor Pena.
Yes.
I'll get it correct this time. Chief of Staff Sandoval. Thank you. So called.
Thank you all. And Chair Barboa, may I have one more second of your time? Actually, probably two more because I'll have to do my committee report in a moment. I just, as you did, saw the Built Through Zero presentation tonight for the first time. And I just want to say that the Behavioral Health Initiative Housing Subcommittee and Steering Committee will be inviting the city to make that presentation to us in upcoming meetings. It's our job too, at the county and the Behavioral Health Initiative, to do this work. And we're going to do it with them in collaboration and partnership. So we will invite that presentation so that we can work with the city on that. Thank you.
Appreciate you and that comment so much. Thank you. All right, on to item B, opportunities for subcommittee. This might be you. Please, are there any subcommittee members present? BHI, Behavioral Health Initiative subcommittees present.
Madam Chair, I think Chair Sontag is with us tonight virtually. I can give mine and then Cynthia could give her, I guess. So Chair Barboa, members of the commission. At the last meeting of the Housing Subcommittee, we did the extension of the Wellness Hotel. So we could bring it before you. But the other thing that we did, I think, which is really important, is we started a process of looking at the housing continuum for people who are homeless, experience behavioral health issues, and or may have criminal justice background as well. So starting with your basic overnight emergency shelter, all the way down through rapid rehousing, transitional housing, permanent supportive housing, residential treatment programs, safe houses for domestic violence, the entire continuum of housing services. And we're going to start filling in the blanks. So we know what the definitions are. We know what the housing continuum looks like. Now we're going to start filling in the blanks, what exists in Albuquerque, what exists in Bernalillo County, so that it really helps us more further identify gaps in the housing continuum. You know, housing is so critical for getting people off the street, as you heard in the Built Through Zero presentation. It's not the only solution, but it is a critical solution. And so we need housing. So we're going to work on that continuum, and we'll be bringing you reports and updates on that as we present to the ABCGC plus APS plus commission meetings in the future. So that's my report for the Housing Subcommittee. I stand for any questions. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to Cynthia if she's still online. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barndollar. Cynthia Sontag, please.
Yes. Thank you very much. I hope everyone can hear me. I'm the chair for the Crisis Subcommittee, and we are actually getting our feet running a little bit. We've got some really exciting proposals that we're going to be considering. But first, I want to mention that one of our main goals for working with the Crisis Triage Center and getting updates with that, just briefly, they are building. They're on target progress, and they've started with policies and procedures and working on scope of practice for some of the programs that are going to be involved. And we have invited every meeting to get an update and to contribute some of our expertise. We want to look at not just evidence-based, we do want to look at evidence-based programmatic development and options that aren't just one way, come in, get dropped off, get assessed, and get referred out to something else. We want to provide more service and direct care and a variety of opportunities for engaging on an individual basis. Things like open dialogue, or what I did in crisis triage 40 years ago, which was, what supports do you have? How can we support you getting re-engaged in your community and in your life? The recovery model that NAMI proposes, and do more active engagement, which will also be complementary to the living room model and the peer supports that we're going to be having there, and training them to understand how to engage in a more team approach, so that it's not just professionals sitting in there telling you what to do, because we are professionals. So we're going to be engaging as much as we can with UNM to encourage more types of engagements. And so that's what we're working on, to collaborate, to be much more collaborative and communicative about all of that. We have two things that have come up also. We would really like to support more psychosocial rehabilitation programs, so that UNM tends to work from the model of, patients are coming from outpatient and coming out into continuum of care outwardly, and we want to keep people out and do more prevention programs. And so we would like to enhance more programmatic outpatient things at the CARES campus. Pam Acosta mentioned there was an opportunity that we could do a collaborative programmatic situation with the psychosocial rehab program, expanding CARES campus opportunities. And I'm thinking in terms of, a lot of times we think of respite as people are tired of sort of trying to care give, and we want to think about it from the patient perspective, the client perspective of, I need a break. I want some support and reestablishing myself before I crash and burn kind of thing. And so we're thinking of it that way, because UNM's psychosocial rehab is for their community. It's not for the outside community. You have to be a part of UNM. So we want to expand on that idea and develop more services that way. And the third thing that we're hearing, the sheriff's department, we have a new sheriff in town, and we're excited because he is very pro behavioral health, and he wants to expand behavioral health services with social workers, and hire more social workers, and is bringing us a proposal. We don't know what it is yet. Please wait for the envelope to open. And I'm assuming it has to do with the mobile crisis team and being able to expand those services and the training with that. So we are working diligently to be excited and creative around increasing gaps in services and enhancing programs that are there, including talking next time about how we can get a pipeline of more providers on the care campus, because I understand from the newspaper that they're understaffed, and we want to provide some helpful hints on how to do that. And I think that's one of our next projects, to talk about how to do that. Keep things rolling, keep the ball rolling. That's my report. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Sontag? It's a very thorough report. I'm happy to hear about that. You all are really helping out with the collaboration part. It's so needed, and I love that you mentioned the NAMI model. I don't know how much we're able to influence models, but just thankful that you all are having these discussions and getting these together. Any other questions for? Thank you for that report, Ms. Sontag.
Thank you.
All right, we will be moving. There's not any other subcommittee members. Okay, moving on to item C, Counselor Feeble-Corn, School-Based Anti-Violence Program.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We had this presentation last year when this program was in the planning stages, and I wrote a little blurb about it in my newsletter, and so many people from my district reached out and said, this sounds really interesting. Can we get it in more schools? And I had to explain that it was a grant for one school to try. So I just wanted to get an update on how it's going and be able to respond to folks' questions now that it's hopefully moving along. And I don't know who's here to present on this, but I'm sure it will be very good, whoever it is.
Looks like maybe Mr. Pata, Miss Sierra Fazio.
Yes, hi, good evening. So we're here to, yes, give you guys a presentation. I'm going to share my screen real quick. And we're going to go through the PowerPoint real quick. And then Mike's going to talk a little bit more in depth about the actual how it's working in the schools right now. So I'm Serena Sierra-Fazio. I am the VIP Special Projects Manager at Albuquerque Community Safety Department. We are very thankful to be able to come and give an update to you all. My director, she apologizes, she could not attend tonight, but I do have our emails on here if you do want to reach out to her or to any of us directly. So as most people know, ACS started in 2020 and has been running for a year and a half. Some of our programs are the CORA program, the Violence Intervention program, the hospital-based VIP program, and it seemed fitting to pilot the school-based violence intervention program under us, seeing that it aligned with our audience, the mission, and our values, and really serving the community and giving them a voice as well. So most of this started with discussions in 2021. You know, a lot of people have seen West Mesa in the news. We've heard some stories. Most people know somebody who's been impacted by gun violence. And we were thankful to be able to have these talks, these partnerships with APS, with West Mesa High School and the Kellogg Foundation for really seeing the value, the need, and the potential to help heal, support, and empower the youth and families in the community and bringing this call to action to really start preventative measures. And so again, I just want to thank the Kellogg Foundation for really seeing the potential here for this pilot. We really didn't start the program on site until about the end of October of 2022. As most programs start, it takes time to really get that robust going, but we did get there. We've had, you know, winter break and then Christmas break. And so January is really when it got to really kick off with the students in this program. And the whole goal of it really is to be a violence reduction public health initiative for those at youth at highest risk. Currently, right now, this is what our referral process looks like. We're in the beginning stages. We feel that it will become a little bit more robust as the months go. And that is for violence against students or staff, group and gang involvement, weapons, and selling drugs. Our goals, again, are to really just bridge those gaps in the city and the school systems to increase successful outcomes for our youth that are at high or medium risk for violence, and to really connect families with that complex trauma and multi-layered challenges to resources. So right now, currently, we have a coordinator who is overseeing the program, the community collaborations and evaluation process. Mike Pata, who is on, he's our intervention specialist, and he's really going to talk to you guys about how he goes about his assertive outreach and his case management approach, and how he's worked really hard to build trust with these students and has really given them an open space for them to go to his classroom throughout the whole day. And then we also really want to focus on that engagement with not just the student, but with the family. We really want to make sure that it's a robust service for the family to really make sure that they have services and resources if they need them as well. We're very lucky for West Mesa. They have a lot of great programs. They have a lot of early warning indicator teams, and we get to work really well with their truancy social worker, their community school coordinator, the McKinney-Vento program outreach workers, and the counselors and nurses and deans. And then we have Crossroads for helping with the substance abuse for the students. So like I said, I have Mike on here. He's really our key component to this whole program. He can talk a little bit about his lived experience as well, but he's going to go into the next couple of slides and tell you a little bit more about the day-to-days of the program. Go ahead, Mike.
Hello, everybody. Madam Chair, hello. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak about the school-based VIP program on West Mesa High School. I started with the program back at the end of October. It is a pilot program, and we still are in our infancy stage of the program. But I am happy to say that have gained traction, and we've really hit the ground with the boots running. I started off with 4 referrals of 4 kids that were participating back in October, and now I am up to as 22, and I have 12 to 15 attending on a regular basis. It is a pull-out program, and I work in conjunction with the deans of students and then also the EWI team, the Early Warning Intervention team, where I get the referrals from West Mesa High School to get referred to the program. Like I said, it is a pull-out program, so they do come for their 6th and their 7th period. But I'm happy to say that the trust that I've built with the kids, I should say students, I'm sorry, has really blossomed, because they don't just come for their 6th and 7th period. They also come during lunch or throughout the day to check in if they're having a rough day. I have five students right now coming in for their lunch periods to actually catch up on all of their past assignments that they've missed. But as far as the program itself, it is growing, and it's moving in a positive direction. We just did a couple of events over there at West Mesa High School. One, we did the school-based violence intervention program assembly, but VIP assembly as well. And we got an opportunity to talk to like over 1,800 kids about anti-gun violence and how to avoid that. Also, we had our first family night now on the 16th, and it was really nice to have the kids bring in their parents, and the parents get an idea of what the program was about. We were able to educate them on some of the services that were on campus that were getting relaunched, like the West Mesa Clothing Bank and the food bank. So I've been able to build a lot of relationships with a lot of the other supports that are on campus, not just school-based VIP. But for our family night, it was good to hear when we had the parents go around and introduce themselves, and they talked about how they've noticed a change in their son or daughter at home. That resonated with me, and it really, made me realize that seed that we were watering back in October was starting to grow. Am I down to my last slide?
Mike, why don't you talk about some of the 3 students and how you've helped them with their employment and the ones that are on probation?
Yes. 3 students, and I'll go quick. Student 1, he is on probation, has 2 gun charges against him, was going down the wrong path, started with the program. He's starting to go to his classes now. I built a relationship with his probation officer to where we can work in conjunction to make sure he's doing what he needs to do. But also, I helped him with the hiring process and filling out a resume and going online to do an application. And he is now currently working at McDonald's part-time and on the weekends. I have another young lady, African-American. Last year, she was in the dean's office quite a bit for carrying a knife and weapons, and she fought quite a bit. This year, total 180. Even the teachers are boasting about how much she's changed. She comes to the program every single day. She is catching up on her work. Her attendance is skyrocketed. And now she's also brought in her sister, which has just started the program. The young lady, I got her a job at Wendy's, and then her sister just started working at Lotta Burger. So yes, the students are amazing, and just giving them a little bit of time and some structure, they're really starting to move down a positive path.
Thanks, Mike. We appreciate that. So I think we can all agree that, the need is definitely there. And it's nice to see after being there for 5 months, we're really seeing some progress with the students. It does take time to build that trust with them and really get them to believe in themselves. And that's exactly what Mike is doing. So it's working out really well. We really want to scale this to other high schools. But this is a pilot program, so we have to really think about what the sustainability of that's going to look like and what other funding is going to come from. Our clusters right now, though, we are doing alignments with middle schools. We are doing assemblies and performing at other middle schools, so we can try and stop that there before it gets to high school. And we're working with some really good partners like YDI, Peace and Justice Center, and RFK. We're not going to say everything's hunky-dory. We've had some challenges, when you have a pilot program, sometimes you bring in the wrong partners, and we've done that a little bit, but we're learning, we're taking lessons learned, and we're excited to see where the program ends. We have our core evaluation in May, so it'll be really interesting to see what the data shows us, so we can really scale up next on the next high schools. So, but thanks for letting us come and share with you guys. And please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Para and Ms. Sierra Facio. Any comments, discussion?
Chair Barbo, this is Yolanda Montoya Cordova with APS. I just want to say thank you because I know that there's been a lot of concerns coming out of just school violences in general for the district. I can't say that it's bad at any one particular school. I think we have an issue of violence that is going on across the community, and it's spilling over into our schools. And so I really appreciate this program and appreciate the efforts that are being made with these students. And it'll be interesting to see data for sure, in terms of the outcomes for these particular students, hoping that, they are completing their courses and getting through those pieces. And so it sounds like having that one caring, trusted adult on campus that can help to increase the sense of belonging and a sense of safety and security over at their school is making a difference. So thank you so much, Mr. Para and Ms. Sierra Fazio, for your work on this.
Counselor Feeble, thank you. Counselor Feeble-Corn, thanks for bringing this.
Thank you. And thank you for the really informative presentation and all the work you're doing. I'm really impressed. I just had a couple quick questions. The first one is just around capacity. I was not expecting you to say 22 students in this program. I was expecting you to say a handful. And so what capacity do you have? Is this about all you can handle for this pilot program?
So Mike is in a portable right now. So yeah, I don't think we could probably pull more for capacity of what he's at currently right now. When we probably get to there, consistently with them attending every day, we'll probably have to go back and talk to West Mesa for a different space.
Got it. Madam Chair, and just one more question, and this is maybe not an answer tonight, but just to be thinking about it. I'm just curious about economies of scale and when we start to look at branching out to other schools, what the cost would be to add at schools, and maybe just as this moves forward, you could just keep me in the loop on that conversation. But again, I really appreciate the presentation and the efforts. It certainly sounds very hopeful and like I said, this has gotten so much interest from my district. And I know if it's my district, then everyone is really looking to this program for, a possibility of really being able to intervene and reduce that violence that we all hear about every single day. So thank you for your work.
Can I interject real quick?
Yeah.
We were actually given by Santino, the assistant principal and operations manager. He gave us another classroom. We're actually in the Mustang building in 104, and it's actually a science classroom. So it's going to open up more possibilities to going into the STEM side of stuff when I do my groups. So we're super, super excited. I'm actually having the kids right now drawing pictures and whatnot to put on the walls to make it their own. So we're super excited about it.
Thank you, Mr.
Bye.
Pada. And it's funny, I was just going to go into that. I was going to say, we've been hearing from Explora open their teen side. I think in those partnerships, we could either sponsor or ask them to donate opportunities for your students to.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
And I'd
Yes,
be definitely in
thank you.
support of thinking of incentives or the ways I can help bring incentives for those students.
Thank you. We'll take any partnerships we can get so we can help the students.
Awesome. Thank you for a great project. Hope to hear again from you soon.
Great. You guys have a great evening. Thank you.
Too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just wanted to take a moment of personal privilege really quick. I know everybody has things to do, but there's an item that I just wanted to raise after having some conversations with Counselor Grout. And she is working on a program at the city to write into policy a handle with care policy for first responders. So this is APD, fire, ACS, potentially all the different groups that may interact with children, youth in a public safety law enforcement type setting. So whether that's something that an incident that has occurred directly to them, or an incident that they witnessed, or an incident that they were otherwise part of, involved in. And what this would do is really just facilitate some mediation, or not mediation, a conduit for that information to flow from the first responders to APS down to the school site. And my understanding is that the county has, under the leadership of former Commissioner Hart Stebbins, already initiated something similar to this. Actually, I think it's called the same thing, Handle with Care. And again, it's really just to facilitate that communication, to make sure that staff at the school site understands why a particular student might be having a bad day, a bad week, something happened at home and they're dealing with it. They've been involved in some kind of trauma, and it's important for the school staff to know that. They don't actually know what the trauma was. They don't get the specific details of the situation, but they just get the information from the central office that, student A was involved in an incident. And that flows down to teachers, principal, any other staff that needs to know about that. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention so that, it's out there. I've had some preliminary discussions with our county manager, and my understanding is that this is something that we're already doing at the county, though I want to confirm that and talk to some of our, first responders and leadership in the respective departments and confirm that that's, and that it's robust and happening. And my understanding is that APS is participating in this. So I just want to commend her for bringing that forward on the city side. I believe it was introduced in the letter of introduction on Monday at the council meeting, and just offered my pledge to assist any way we can at the county on our side. If we need to take any formal action at the commission or beef up our policies on our side, I hope that we can just present a united front. And I think that blends in well with our last item about violence intervention and making sure that we make those connections between our youth, our schools, and our first responders. So thank you for that time, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Olivas. Appreciate that. Thank you for that. I did have one last item I wanted to share, and it's just a discussion. Item 7A. As we talked about in our first meeting of the year, that we'd be meeting every other month, and that I also just wanted to bring forth some proposals about what we meet about. I did. Let me see if I can figure this out. So I did draft up a little bit, something I just wanted to share with folks, and I'll make it quick. So just a reminder, I feel like we're sort of new and we're in this orientation phase, but ABCGC plus APS to 2023, but you know, as it's written on our Bernalillo County website, that Bernalillo County participates in a joint city-county commission made up of elected officials for the purpose of discussing topics of common interest, long-range goals, community needs, and other items as requested by the respective bodies. So that to me really says that, and that's how we've been operating. I really appreciate it. People from these different bodies are able to bring in ideas, ask for presentations, and really bring forth things. So I appreciate that. The ABCGC plus APS makes recommendations to those bodies. The chair of Bernalillo County Board of Commission appoints 4 commissioners. City Council President appoints the 4 city council members, and subject to approval of the council, the mayor also sits on this committee. And it alternates each year beginning in January between the city and the county and meets on a regular basis. So I put forth, and again, I like to sometimes see ahead. Hopefully this doesn't mean that you'll pick and choose when you want to come, but these were some suggestions and my thoughts to think if we could build a little bit of structure. And of course, I would say that priorities are, if anybody wants to bring anything, that could even take priority or urgency as needed. But I did want to also do some work to make sure I'm bringing forward some good conversations for this year. Since we agreed to doing every other month, I believe that would mean that we're meeting in May, July. I'm asking this, Julianne, to you. May, July, September, November, but I believe we both in July take a break.
Yes, that is correct, Madam Chair. So our meetings will be May, August, October, and December.
Okay, great. Okay. And again, this is just for discussion. We don't have to, and definitely open to edits or suggestions. And it's just a draft of what I'd like to see us sort of build a frame around. And so I started with, again, because I hope to, that right now lots passed through the state legislature. The State Behavioral Health Collaborative is meeting and has new leadership and is really focusing some other stuff. So I will work with our staff to get I thought the topic could be sort of state infrastructure service policy and funding and what its impacts on our local governments are. So New Mexico State legislative impacts on local public health and safety, hearing from specifically our Behavioral Health Collaborative. I will likely be inviting Senator Hickey and other legislators that have been sponsors for some of those important efforts. What got through and what maybe didn't, but mostly what got through and how it's going to impact our work here or our funding. And then I thought the following meeting, we could really talk about the intersections of homelessness, behavioral health, courts, corrections. And at that point, we will have, I believe both the city and county will have our budgets and we can discuss where both where our funding and prioritized. I think we'll have more information about opioid settlements at that point. And then I really, if folks remember, Bernalillo County voted and formed a behavioral health work group that should be done by, have some recommendations and suggestions and a report for us in July. And I'm hoping we can hear from them in our August meeting. And then I did include the local landscapes and hopefully more information about Built for Zero at that time. But of course, these are just drafts that I want to work on. Again, anyone want to bring anything additional to the meetings is welcomed. And then I just thought in our last 2 meetings that we could once again sort of think about it as an ecosystem. There's lots of strategic planning going on. Hopefully we'll hear about them before October, but I think we can relook at them, see how far we're going in implementation or what maybe our prospective entities are doing to make sure those things are implemented and have evaluation processes that are transparent to us, not only for the places we need improvement, but also to celebrate our successes and really identify gaps in lifetime. And then December, end of year discussions, public health and safety forward, just thinking into sort of what we've all learned. But of course, we also always have a pretty full agenda for these meetings. And so Like I said, if there's urgency, that would take priority and take precedence.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I just really wanted to commend you and thank you for putting this together. I think this gives us some direction and, you know, we don't have to kind of be floating around, bouncing around. I think this really puts us on a path, and it's an important path that we've heard from our respective constituencies. That's important that we start addressing these gaps and really form real collaborations between the entities. So I think it's great that you're kind of starting at the top, working your way down with the state. I love that, bringing in Senator Hickey and some of the other, you know, real experts and champions for behavioral health and some of these other issues. So I'm really excited about this. I appreciate you putting in the time and effort to put this forward, and I really support it and happy to help you wherever I can with trying to help arrange presenters or anything you need. I like this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And what I'll do is share it around. Again, totally want people's feedback, or if there's something I'm missing or people we should hear from, just please plug it in there. And I'll personally work with our staff to get people to the table, and definitely appreciate all that. Any other comments, questions? Thank you. Thank you for the attendance tonight. Announcement of our next Albuquerque Bernalillo County Government Commission plus APS meeting is Thursday, May 25th, 2023. ABCGC plus meeting at 5 p.m. Ken Sanchez Commission Chambers. I'm going to try. I'm glad for the folks who made it in person. I will be there in person for the next meeting, and we'll still have it as hybrid. If there is no other business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.